So we're going to start just in a comfortable seated position. A cross-legged position is fine. And if you want to come to sit on something, I'm sitting on a yoga block. Sometimes we'll use like a pillow from the couch or a rolled up yoga mat or something like that. If that works better for you. Sometimes having the hips lifted lets go of the strain we have in and around the hip flexors. So just settling in, finding your physical body. So just starting by just noticing what's going on in your bones in the physical form. And then just taking a moment or two and starting to become aware of your breathing. Just notice the breath as it flows in and as it flows out. Maybe you take a moment or two here to just notice what's going on in the space around you. My house, we've been diffusing essential oils, so I can smell that as I'm sitting here. So just kind of checking in with your five senses. And interestingly enough, if your eyes are closed, noticing what it is like to be looking at the inside of your eyelids. So the eyes may be closed, but you're simply noticing maybe it's light. Maybe there's something more that you're seeing. Checking in with what you're hearing, what you're feeling, the earth beneath you and the air around you. And as you're checking in, noticing your experience tonight, maybe just taking a moment here and bring to mind what your hope is for tonight's practice. What are you hoping to take with you? What do you want to feel while you're here? And how would you like to feel for the rest of the night? Maybe even into tomorrow and the days ahead. You draw to mind that emotion, that feeling. And each time I say, as we move through the practice, I mention feeling good, come back to that feeling. Good is just kind of a general term I use. Taking a moment here, slowly rocking from side to side, maybe a little forward to back, and finding the sits bones. And then once you find them, once you feel like you're centered between the right and the left, the front and the back, you draw the shoulders back just a little. So the back of the body, the back of the shoulders stacks over the back of the pelvis. Maybe thinking about drawing the center of the throat back, pressing the center of the head back. So if there were a wall behind you, the back of the head, the shoulders, the back of the pelvis would all be on or up against that wall. And can you, in this place where we're sitting, can you just squeeze your shoulder blades together by like 2% of your effort? So not sticking the chest out per se, just starting to turn on the muscles between the shoulder blades. And then can you make one more adjustment? In this place, as we're pressing back through the center of the skull, can you also lift through the back of the skull? So as if somebody's coming up behind you and grabbing onto the base of the skull and allowing your spine to grow towards the sky, just like a centimeter or so. And as you're breathing here, can you start to deepen your breath? Can you start to lengthen the inhale and lengthen the exhale just a little bit? Sometimes it's helpful to count to yourself the length of your inhale and the length of your exhale. Every couple of breaths, adding on one to your count. And as you're doing this, can you notice where in the body you're breathing? As you inhale, can you fill the breath into the abdomen, up through the rib cage, up to the top of the shoulders? And can you slowly empty it out? On the next inhale, can you bring the fingertips down by your side? Maybe the fingertips will press down into the earth. Maybe they won't, that's okay. And then press the left fingertips down as you reach the right arm straight to the sky. This is my favorite. So as you reach the right arm to the sky, let's get longer through the right side of the rib cage. So the right shoulder climbs up towards the sky. The right hip draws down towards the earth. You get a little bit longer through the right side, and maybe you grow so tall that you start coming over towards the left. That's fine. If you're coming over towards the left, can you press down through the left fingertips so you get taller through the left side as well? So this is not to collapse down in. Keep reaching away. This is an active place. And as you're reaching the right arm away, can you imagine that there's a string there that you grab onto? And as you grab onto the string, can you pull back like 1% just to start to turn on the right side body? And then reach the right hand away a little bit more as you pull back at the same time. You may start to notice the muscles shaking. That's okay. Let's take one more breath here. And slowly releasing back through center. Right hand comes down. Left arm reaches straight to the sky. Left arm comes straight to the sky. Right fingertips come down. So press down through the right just as much as you reach up through the left and keep crawling towards the sky. Keep reaching, reaching, reaching as if the thing that you want is just out of your grasp. Keep reaching up and maybe you start to come over. And one side might be a little different than the other. That's okay. But can you reach a little bit longer through the left side? And then as you reach a little bit longer, can you grab onto that string again? And can you pull back with 1% of your effort, just starting to turn on the muscles underneath the armpit and maybe even down into the side waist. As you're pulling back, can you reach away again? Can you pull back and reach away at the same time? Take a big breath in here. And a breath out. Slowly releasing both hands down. Bring the hands to the knees and just circle the shoulders here. So rolling forward, up, back, and down. Just maybe reversing directions. And from here, coming forward to all fours. So however your mat is set up, I'm going to turn to the side. But taking a moment here, let's grip into the earth because that's fun. So let's press down into the pads of the fingers. So your fingertips press down as if you're trying to dig into the sand. So imagine that you have sand underneath you. Dig down into the pads of the fingers, press down into the knuckles, and can you get the heel of the hand light? So you start to squeeze the thumb and the pinky towards each other so much that you're no longer just kind of hanging in the heel of the hand. The forearms are turned on. Hold on to that, and then inhale as you arch, belly drops down, tail lifts, heart comes forward. Exhale as you press into the hands and round. Keep squeezing with the hands, keep pinching. Inhale, arch. And exhale, round. 3 more. Inhale, keep squeezing, squeezing. Pull that pinky finger a lot, tends to slack. And then exhale, round. Inhale, arch. Exhale, round. Last one here. Inhale, arch. And exhale, round. Come back to sit on the heels. You can come up to seated, and let's just make some wrist circles here. What might happen is you might start to hear lots of cracking. Like if I brought my wrist right to the microphone, you'd hear my wrists are doing that. That's fine. Little circles in one direction and then the other. We'll do a little bit more wrist stuff in a few. But for right now, we're going to come just back to the hands. You don't have to press down into the fingertips if that's like burning out your forearms. But we're going to reach the right leg straight back. So the right leg's going to come straight back. Toes come down on the ground like they would in plank pose. I'm going to do the opposite side first so you can see what I'm doing. So toes are curled under. I'm pressing the heel back. So now this is fun. Press down into the toes, like grip into the earth with the toes, press down into the ball of the foot, and then start to push them away as if you want to rock forward, but don't rock forward. So activate here. This turns on your calf muscle. While your calf muscle's turned on, can you start to press the heel back just a little? And as you're pressing away with your toes and pressing the heel back, can you straighten the leg and firm up the upper thigh a little bit more? Turn on that upper front of the leg, the quadricep muscles. Let's take 2 more breaths. And slowly releasing down. Let's bring the big toes together, open the knees wide, and just come hips to heels, child's pose. So all the stuff that we do in this practice here, this style of practice we're doing tonight, this kind of chromatic stretch, is to build strength and stability in the joints along with mobility. So while you're here, crawl the hands out a little, press down into the pads of the fingers, back into the knuckles, and let the heel of the hand soften. And then press down into the hands until the forearms lift up off of the mat. The head might lift up as well. You may start to feel the muscles on the upper back turn on. That's cool. Keep pressing down through the pads of the finger, down through the knuckles. Can you crawl the hands out a little bit more and sink the hips back? So just think about getting longer through the torso. And then letting go of that pressing down through the hands and coming up to all fours, hands and knees. From here, we'll send the other leg back. So I think that's the left one this time, even though I switched. Curl the toes under. So get a good grip on the toes. See if you can even get the pinky toe involved. Sometimes the pinky toes don't like to do the work. Press down into the toes, press down into the ball of the foot, and then press away as if you're trying to point your toes, basically. And then as you do that, it turns on the calf muscle. Can you start to press the heel back a little bit? And as you're pressing the heel back, can you straighten the leg and firm up the thigh muscle, the quadriceps? Take a few rounds of breath here. You can always come down onto the forearms if your arms are getting tired, that's fine. And take one more breath. And then releasing here, we'll open the knees wide. Big toes come together, hips to heels, child's pose. Can you inhale here, press down into that left hand, open the right arm towards the sky, and then thread the right arm underneath. So right shoulder comes down, fingernail side of the hand presses down into the mat on that right hand. So we're gonna twist here. Press down into the left palm, press down into the right fingernails. And then as you're crawling the right hand away, can you also, just like we did in that side bend, imagine you've grabbed onto a string without clutching your hand. Is that the right word? Clenching? And then start to pull back with like, let's make it 2 or 3% of your effort. Starting to turn on the muscles in the outer shoulder, the upper back that you're currently stretching. And slowly pressing down to the left hand, coming back through center. Right arm stays, bring the right arm out. Inhale, left arm comes to the sky. And then we thread the left arm underneath. Same idea here. Left shoulder comes down, left fingernails. Right palm reaches away. Pressing down into the left fingernails. And then as you reach away with the left hand, can you also pull back? We'll take one more breath here. Goes down through the right hand. Come back up, back to hands and knees. Let's take a few rounds of cat-cow here. Inhale, arch. And exhale, round. Inhale, arch. And exhale, round. Inhale. And exhale. From here, we'll press back. We're going to come onto our backs now. So flipping ourselves around, coming onto our backs. If you have that strap, trying to get it close by so that you can use it while we're here. We don't need it right away. We'll come onto our back here, walking the feet in towards us. So bringing the feet in as close to the gluteal muscles as you can. And try not to have the feet too wide. So think about, there's nobody there to check you, I totally get it, but think about your feet line up with where your thigh bones come out of your pelvis. So there's kind of a straight line. And then before we go anywhere or do anything, can you create a little arch in the low back? So just like we did in that cow pose, in that position where we're on our hands and knees, we drew the tail to the sky. And sort of turn on the muscles on the low back. Can you do that here, except the tail goes towards the earth and the low belly starts to lift towards the sky. So you turn on the low back muscles and you probably could slide your hand underneath your low back. So all we're looking for here is a little muscle activation. We're just looking for the muscles to be turned on. So not any like crazy powerlifting things happening in the low back, just enough. We've got a little arch, a little activation. And then we're going to press through the inner heel and the big toe mound. So that big toe side of the foot, we'll press through there and we'll lift just until the weight comes off the back of the pelvis. Now what tends to happen is we scoop the tail. Can you go back to that little arch? Turn the low back on once again. And then press down again into the feet, keeping the low back active. So maybe the hips lift up another inch. And we're going to do this back and forth. So press down into the feet, find the arch in the low back. Press down into the feet another inch or half an inch. Arch the low back. I was just thinking of the whole, when my hairdresser used to say to me, an inch is a lot more than you think. Since we have a hairdresser in the crowd, I figured I would laugh about that, but press down into the inner heel once again. Lift the hips. Stay active through the low back. And maybe now you're lifting as high as your pelvis will go with the low back active. So you can kind of play around with it. You might be like, oh, I can lift a little higher. Oops, low back turned off. Bring the hips down, reset. Find that activation, press back in. And can you hold here just for a few breaths? And to create a little bit more stability, can you squeeze without moving the knees? Can you hug the legs towards each other so the inner leg line turns on, but don't actually move? So as you're pressing down into the inner heel, down into the big toe mounds, you've got the low back turned on, the inner leg line is turned on. Can you now grip with the feet and pull the feet back towards you? So you might notice that you shift, your weight shifts towards the toes, a weight like the knees move forward a little bit. That's fine. Let's take one more breath here. And then ever so slowly lowering back down. Maintain that low back curve, that anterior tilt until the back of the pelvis comes down onto the mat. And then you can release. You can let the feet walk away from you a little, maybe windshield washer from side to side. Now from this place, let's keep the right foot on the ground where it was for bridge, and let's extend the left leg long on the ground. So as the left leg is extended long, the right foot is flat on the ground. Can you take the left heel, the back of the left heel, which is where the Achilles is, the back of the calf, can you press those down into the earth? And not so much that you're like locking out the knee, but imagine that you're trying to press the heel down and pull the foot up towards the butt without actually bending the knee. Can you turn on the gluteal muscles? So when you press the heel down, the butt turns on. And when you imagine that you're trying to bend the knee and pull the foot in, the hamstring on the back of the leg turns on. Can you maintain that and then without moving, imagine that you're trying to squeeze a block between your legs. So you're hugging in that left leg in towards the midline so the inner leg line turns on. Let's just hang out here for 2 breaths. And then slowly releasing all of that pressing down. Just take a moment here. We've let the muscles chill, keep the leg extended long. And then hug the left knee in towards the chest. So hands can come around the shins, give yourself a little squeeze. Maybe rock a little from side to side. And then grabbing onto your strap or whatever you're using as a strap today. You can even like use your pant leg, that's fine too if you don't have a strap. We're going to bring the strap around the arch of the foot, high in the arch, so up towards the ball of the foot. Bend the knee, grab onto the strap wherever it may be, and then see if you can start to kick the heel towards the sky. So the idea here is not just that you're throwing the leg up and pulling on the strap, but that you're kicking the heel towards the sky, turning on the muscles in the back of the leg. So kicking the heel up, turns on the gluteal muscles. And then again, imagining that you're trying to bend the knees, you're trying to pull the foot. If you actually were allowing it to happen, you'd be bending, trying to bring the knee in towards the butt. But can you do that same action, that same activation of the muscles where you're pulling the foot in towards the butt and kicking the heel towards the sky without actually moving? And then with that in place, the kicking the heel away, kicking the heel towards the sky and kicking the heel towards the butt. Can you use the strap and with the little assistance of your arms and see if the leg will come more towards the rib cage? It might not. You might get, I kind of have an exaggerated, have more mobility. You might get like 0.5 centimeter, that's fine. You might get nothing. You might be like, whew, not happening today, that's okay too. You want to keep the muscles safe. Muscles don't like to stretch, they like to engage. So creating a little activation sometimes gives us more space. I'm going to take one more breath here. And then switching, if you can, the straps, both ends of the straps into your left hand. And we're going to slowly let the left leg come out towards the left. Now I always say, oh, this is the fun stuff. This is the fun stuff. So right now what you're trying to stretch is the inner leg line. So can you, when you get as far as you're going, wherever that is, you might be here, you might be really far out, doesn't matter. Can you imagine that same activation where we were hugging the legs towards the midline, where you're activating the inner leg line? Can you do that again? And maybe you have to switch the strap into the right hand, bring the left hand to the inside of the leg and kick into the hand. Sometimes I do that. And then you might notice a little bit more space. Again, you might not. That's okay. Can you imagine that you're trying to squeeze that leg back towards the sky? One more breath here. And slowly back up through center. And then just let go of the activation for a minute. Grab onto the strap and see what happens. It's funny, I always think, oh, I'm going to have so much mobility. And then really what happens is my muscles just go, could you stop that, please? When you're ready, hug the left knee back into the chest. Give yourself a little squeeze. And then releasing that left foot down. Just take a moment here. Maybe windshield washer a little from side to side. And then once you're ready to do so, we'll walk the left foot in. We'll extend the right leg long. So the right heel and the right calf press down towards the earth. So turning on the gluteal muscles, the buttocks muscles on the right side. And then as you press down, can you imagine that you're trying to kick the heel down and pull the heel back towards your butt so that you can turn on the back of the leg, just like we just did in the sky on the other side, you're doing on the ground here. And then with this, pressing down through the calf, pressing down through the heel, and then imagining you're trying to pull the heel in towards you, turning on the hamstring muscles. Can you also squeeze the leg in towards the midline so the inner leg line turns on? And slowly releasing here. We'll hug the right knee in towards the chest. Give yourself a little squeeze. Maybe rock a little from side to side. And then finding that strap once again. Strap goes high in the arch up towards the ball of the foot. Keep the knee a little bit bent, grab onto the strap, and then use gravity with the arms to kind of pull on the foot just a little. And then here we are once again. We'll kick the heel to the sky. And then we'll all, at the same time, imagine that you're trying to pull the heel in towards the butt. So to kick the heel towards the sky here turns on the glute muscles, pulling the foot in towards the butt isometrically, so not actually moving, turns on the hamstring, the back of the leg. And then because it's fun, maybe you just add in that little hug in towards the midline, activate the inner leg line here. And then can you shift both ends of the strap into the right hand and start to let the leg come out towards the right. Again, just coming to the place that you start to get a little resistance on the inner leg line. And so for me, that just happens to be where my couch is. And so that's fine. You can always do this. You can always rest a foot or something on your leg, your shin on the couch. And then from this place, as you're kicking away through the heel and then pulling back through the heel, at the same time, can you also hug back through the midline without lifting the leg back up, without drawing it back to the center? And so if your leg's laying on a piece of furniture or on the wall, sometimes we have limited space, right, when we're practicing, that might just mean that the leg just pops up off of the piece of furniture. That because the inner leg line is turned on, you have a little bit of lift there. Maybe you notice you have a little bit more range of motion. Maybe you don't. That's fine too. And slowly coming back up through center, hugging the knee in, give yourself a little squeeze. And then just starting to look at the outer hips. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left thigh. So in this place, you cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Draw the toes towards the knee. So we call this flexing the foot often. And then can you take the pinky side edge of the foot over here and karate chop it down? So it goes towards the pinky side edge. You're just pushing it away. And then pressing the knee away in the same direction as the pinky edge of the foot. You might just stay right here. If you're looking for a little bit more sensation or work, maybe you hug the left knee in towards the chest, using the strength of the left hip flexors. We'll slowly release the left foot down. We'll uncross here, bring the right foot back to the floor. And then bring the left knee in back to table position. So let's bring the hand to the thigh above the knee. And then press the hand into the leg and pull back through the leg. So starting to create some resistance here. So the knee pulls in, the hand pushes back and away and resists, turning on the hip flexors, those muscles right at the top of the thighs. Take one more breath. And slowly releasing down. And just take a moment here, let the knees windshield washer from one side and then the other. And then once you're ready to, you can cross the left ankle over the right knee or thigh, just above the knee. And again, drawing the toes back towards the knee, flexing the foot, karate chopping with the pinky side edge of the foot, and then pressing the knee in the same direction as that pinky side edge. So all pressing away. So you might stay right here. This might be kind of peak sensation for the left outer hip for you. That might be where you are like, okay, that's good. That's fine. Or if you're looking for a little bit more, you could use the strength of that right hip flexor, hug the knee in. We'll slowly release that right foot down and cross the left. And then draw the right knee back up. So right hand comes to the thigh above the knee. And you press into the thigh bone, presses into the hand, and the hand presses back. So turning on those muscles at the top of the thigh bone, right? Right, kind of the crease of the leg and the pelvis. And slowly releasing. Foot comes down. Let's bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees drop out towards the sides. So we're going to kind of play both ends, both sides of the legs here. The first thing that we're going to do with the soles of the feet together is press the feet into each other. So that turns on the buttocks, right? You can feel it when you press the feet in, you're like, oh, you probably lift up a little bit off of the ground, that's fine. And then from this place, use the strength of your outer legs, use the strength of your gluteal muscles to engage by pulling the knees towards the earth. Now, I'm not talking about rip the inner groin out. I'm talking about turn on the outer hip muscles, right? You might find karate chopping the pinky side edge of the foot down into the earth gives you a little bit more activation there. And all I'm looking for is those muscles turning on. So again, we're not like powerlifting the outer hips. We're just trying to get the muscles to be like, oh, hi, I'm here. And then releasing that and just letting the bones be heavy for a moment. You might notice the knees open a little bit. That's cool. And now let's go in the other direction. So press the feet together about half as much as you did. This time really press through the big toe. Press the big toes together. And then as you press the big toes together without moving the knees, can you activate the legs and the inner legs like you're trying to squeeze the knees towards each other? So as if you're trying to come up and squeeze a block, and maybe you're somebody that needs a little reminder of what you're pressing into, you can bring the hands into the inner leg and then press up. And I will be totally honest, sometimes when I'm doing this stuff, I search out my 11-year-old and I say, hold that right there. Now push and resist me. Cool, thanks. Stay there. And she'll just like lay on a body part while she reads her book. So pets can be helpful. Kids can be helpful. In any of this where we're looking for kind of that tactile resistance. And in the next pose that we do, I will show you more of that. And then letting go of that engagement. And let's just stay here for a few breaths. I don't know about you, but the tension that I was feeling in the inner leg line that was really gripping at the pelvis has released after that second side, after that engaging the inner leg line for me. And when you're ready to, you can heel toe the feet away from each other. Again, maybe windshield washering just a little, shifting the hips from side to side. And then once you're ready to do so, you can roll over onto your side and we'll come back up onto our mats. So we're going to come into a lunge position. And so if you would like to use props here, I'm going to use my couch because I can, because it's right here. If you have a piece of furniture around you that you want to use, cool. Otherwise, you can use your strap. But where we're gonna start, if you want to bring a padding underneath the right knee, left foot's going to come forward. So we just start in this kind of lunged position, this Anjane Asana position. And we're going to add in a quad stretch with a little resistance. So, because I have a piece of furniture, I'll show you with that first. I'm going to bring my hands down. I'm going to back myself up a little bit, and I'm going to bring my foot up onto the couch. So I'm really far forward on this back thigh now, and I'm pressing the foot away. What it looks like on the ground without a pillow. And then here, I might stay down here, or I might rise back up. Okay. You can do the same thing. Just rearranging my furniture. You can do the same thing by bringing a strap, loop it, but by bringing a strap around the foot. And the idea here, what you're looking for is to have something that you can kick into. So once I'm here, I might come into this position, grabbing onto the strap wherever works for me, and then kicking my leg down into the strap. So activating the quadricep, the front of the leg here. The reason we're using a strap is just so we don't have to worry about the shoulders. If this is accessible to you, you certainly could do that as well. I'll be totally honest. My favorite place to be is on a piece of furniture. That's what I'm gonna do. But as you're here, still kicking back into that foot. So you turn on the front of that back thigh, the quadricep muscles. Because again, muscles like to be contracted. They don't like to be stretched. So if you can activate here, you might be able to get a little bit further forward or a little bit more upright, depending on what direction you want to go in. But you might start to create a little bit more space. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then slowly backing away. So if you have your foot on a piece of furniture, you're going to rotate. Let the foot come down, shift off, and we'll come over to the other side. So same setup here. Other foot comes forward. Just get my mic back on, so I'm gonna drag it across the room. Starting again in a lunge. It doesn't matter how far the feet are right to left. And just noticing the 2 sides might be different. That's okay too. Pressing down into that left foot, activating the quadricep muscles on the front of the thigh. And just kind of play around here. You might notice being upright gives you a little bit more stretch depending on what's going on in your hips. You might be looking for a little bit more space in that front leg or in and around the pelvis in a different way, in which case you could come forward or over to the left. Kicking back into that foot, like, I don't know, 5% of your effort. We'll take 1 more breath here. And then slowly shifting back, coming off of whether the foot is in a strap or on a piece of furniture. And we'll come back down to seated here. So if you'd like to come to sit on a pillow or a blanket, you certainly could do so. But we're going to open into a straddle position, so opening the legs wide. And then as we're here, kind of like we did when we were laying on our backs, we're going to test out the outer and the inner leg line. But first, I want you to find a little anterior tilt. So think about turning on the muscles in the low back once again. So sending the booty back, turn on those low back muscles, lift a little through the chest. And then before you go anywhere, let the hands come down. Legs are as far out as they're going to go naturally for you. And then I want you to kick the legs, activate the outer leg line by kicking the legs back behind you. So that means the glutes turn on, the outer leg line turns on. Maybe you lift a little bit more through the chest. You might find it's harder to roll forward here. That's okay. Just kind of keep playing with your edge. Keep pressing back as if you could squeeze the legs back the other direction. And each time you pull back, maybe you lengthen a little bit more through the spine, turn on the low back muscles a little bit more, and maybe you find a little bit deeper of a fold. And slowly lifting back through the spine. You kind of shake out your legs a little, bend them. And then we're going to come the other direction. So again, find the anterior tilt first. So a little roll forward onto the sits bones, turn on the low back muscles and the booty back, lift through the chest, right? Let the hands come down to the earth. And then without moving the legs, can you isometrically hug the legs like you're trying to squeeze them together? So now you turn on the inner leg line. When you turn on the inner leg line, maybe you also press down into the heels and turn on the back of the legs just a little bit. They tend to go together. We have a hamstring that sits, that is usually what's tightest on us, that is actually sits on the inner leg line. So when you activate both of those, you get a little bit more space, a little length through the spine, maybe a little crawl or fold forward. Keep hugging together, keep pressing down, pulling back through the heels to turn on the back side of the legs. Lots of things going on, for sure. And slowly lifting back through the spine. You can shake out the legs a little bit if that works better for you. And then we're going to bring the legs just straight out in front. So the feet do not have to be together touching. Actually, what tends to work best is when your feet are about as width as your thigh bones are, where they come out of the pelvis. So think about, this is what we call hip width distance, right? So same action here, send the feet out. Can you press down through the heel like you're trying to pull back? And as you pull back, let the knees bend a little bit. Roll forward onto the sits bones. So get a little anterior tilt, turn on the low back. And then can your hands come forward and reach your feet? If they can't, come back to your strap. Keep the knees a little bit bent. Keep reaching forward here. So the idea is that you're going to kick into the strap and pull back with the hands, right? So if you're here, you're going to kick the feet forward, kick the feet down and pull back with the hands. Use that pulling back to lengthen the spine a little bit more. And maybe taking a fold. Maybe the rib cage comes to the thighs. Maybe you fold all the way over and the head comes down towards the shins. It doesn't have to. But keep pressing down, pulling back through the heels, and then pressing away with the balls of the feet. Using that to get long through the spine. So you've got some tension in the arms, and that's helping to pull you forward. Also maintaining that anterior tilt, to keep the low back safe. So the low back muscles are turned on. We'll take one more breath. And slowly releasing, coming back up to seated here. Let's just bring the soles of the feet together. I like to rock out a little to get the sits bones on the ground, and so that I can start to come forward. And then maybe just taking what you might call a passive stretch here. So not necessarily engaging anything in the legs or anything in the spine, just allowing yourself to fold forward. And slowly lifting back through the spine. If you'd like to come back onto your back and come back into that figure four, you can do so. We're going to do a different variation on this figure four now. So we're going to start by bringing the left leg across. So as if you're just coming into a cross-legged position, left shin comes across. I'm going to press into the pinky side edge of the foot, so I'm not putting strain on the outer ankle bone. So I press down, the outer ankle bone lifts up a little bit. I'm going to lean back. I just happen to have a couch here. And then I'm going to draw the right knee in and the right foot across. So I'm totally leaned back right now, which is why that was easy. If you have open hips, it might be easy anyway, but like I'm in like a slouchy lean back position. Now I'm going to come forward. So I just came forward quite a bit, right? So as I come forward, again, finding those sits bones, maybe I send the sits bones back, maybe I rock out a little. And so my right leg is on top. I'm going to pull the right hip back. So I'm going to do that. I used my hand, but I'm not pulling it back with my hand. I'm using anterior tilt of that right hip and pulling back. So turning on the low back muscle, sending the right butt back, using the strength of the glutes. And then I'm going to karate chop both. So the pinky side on the left foot is down, pinky side on the right foot is coming down. And then I'm going to take the strength of the outer hip and press the knee down. So active, which is the glute as well. Active feet, which is the shins. All that protects the knees and the low back. Find a little anterior tilt in the low back. Turn that on so it doesn't get pulled on. And then you might stay right here. You might take a fold. You might come towards the top foot. You might come over to the side. Just kind of listening to what your body wants to experience. This is my favorite place to be. It might not be yours, but I love to be where the top foot is. I love to come in that direction. And just know each time you make an adjustment, so each time I shift myself to the side, I'm going to hug the right hip back again. I'm going to press down the right knee. I'm going to karate chop the pinky side edge of both feet. And then we'll slowly come back up through center. To get out of this pose again, shifting the weight back and even really lifting with the bottom foot to get the knee up, take some of the pressure off of the this hip and this knee, and then I just let it slide across. Maybe take a moment with that leg straight, giving the knee a break, and then it's going to come in on the other side. I slid back. So again, press into the pinky side edge of the foot. I'm going to hug the left knee in. I'm going to bring the left foot across. So this is happening because of rotation of the thigh, not because I'm putting pressure on the knee. So if you can only get to here and you're colliding, then lean back further, then come across once you're clear without pressuring the knee. So actually you can hold the knee there. That can be helpful. And then once you're like, okay, I'm across, pinky edge, left hip draws back. And see the difference between sitting here like this is a natural position for me. The second I draw the left hip back, the knee goes down. I haven't even pressed into it yet. It's because I've given it the space and I've turned on the gluteal muscle. So as you pull back with the left hip, press down with the left knee, pinky side edges of the feet, karate chop down. So this shouldn't be like, oh, this feels amazing, it's so relaxing. It should be like, wow, my legs are doing a lot of work. That's what we want. Again, turn on the muscles in the low back, right? Turn that little J-Lo action, that little anterior tilt. Shorten up those muscles. Take a fold. Or maybe over towards that top foot. Maybe over towards the top knee. And you can kind of play around. You might notice if you reach away with the arm, like, oh, look at that, everything's connected. Let's take another breath here. Slowly coming back up through center. And again, shifting back so that you take the pressure off here so you can get the leg uncrossed. And then we're going to come back onto our backs. So if you'd like to, sometimes it's nice to just take a quick down dog there. You can if you'd like. You certainly don't have to. If you're just ready to be on your back, that's good. That works. So come onto our backs, hug the knees into the chest, rock a little bit from side to side. I'm going to give you a couple of options here so you can just kind of pick what's going to work best for you. I'm just starting to run a little bit lower on time, which is fine. If you'd like to take a spine twist here, you could open the feet relatively wide, so maybe not as wide as the mat, but a little bit wider than the hips. And then let them both drop to one side. Count 5 or 6, and then drop to the other side. You can come back, soles of the feet together. You can come into a happy baby, which would mean hands come inside the knees, over the tops of the feet, into the pinky side edge of the foot. And then we let the knees swing out to the side. And just like we were in that sitting double pigeon or Agni Stambhasana, fire log pose. At the end there, you can rock a little from side to side. Sometimes all that work in the lumbar spine, all that anterior tilt, makes for a tired low back. Tired is different than pain. So you might notice, ooh, those muscles worked. Might not feel normal, but that's okay. It's just like as if you went for a hike for the first time this season. Your legs are feeling burny. Just kind of like that. And then if you'd like to, since you're at home and maybe you have some space, or you have some furniture or something that you can put your legs up on, you come into an inversion, the legs up towards the sky, maybe up against a wall. You could put a block underneath the pelvis that can give you kind of a nice lift and weightlessness. Sometimes I like to come onto the wall, and then I demonstrate it with my couch. Sometimes I like to come onto the wall and just come into a straddle. You can do it. I actually do this on my bureau as well when I'm in my room practicing. Just open my legs and then bring them to rest here. So we just did a lot of work in the legs. Sometimes this feels nice, especially if mobility through the inner leg line is something that you're working on. You can kind of play around. What does it feel like to anterior tilt a little bit more here? You're coming the other way. You have the legs up or just on a piece of furniture. Or you can just come into a regular old Shavasana, the legs extended long. Just starting to come back to your breath. Noticing once again the bones. Noticing how the body is connected to the earth, connected to the mat underneath you, your carpet, your wood floor, your linoleum or tile, whatever you're on. It doesn't really matter what the surface is. The idea is that the surface underneath you is steady. It's not going anywhere. So you can trust it. You can trust it to support you while you're here. And so if you're trusting the ground underneath you to support you, can you allow your shoulders to just relax towards the earth? Your chest rolls open just a little. You allow the back of the head and the back of the pelvis to be heavy. Can you allow any other contact points, anything else that is touching another surface? Can you just allow the surface that's underneath your body to support you fully? To know that this surface has your back. It's got you. No need to worry. And coming back to the rhythm of your own breath. And just settling in here for a little while. begin to draw some awareness back to your breath. Deepening the inhalation and the exhalation. Drawing some awareness back to the body. Again, feeling the ground, the earth underneath you, the air around you. And slowly starting to add in some movements. Circling the wrists and ankles, wiggling the fingers and the toes. Starting to add in some larger movements. And eventually allowing those movements to bring you to a seated position. Bringing the hands into the heart. As you come to seated with the hands at the heart, coming back to the feeling that you wanted to cultivate today. The thing that you wanted to feel while you were here. You want to take with you when you leave. And that you can carry with you until we meet again. Thank you for sharing your practice with me this evening. Namaste.